Hello and welcome back to the Hyrani Institute YouTube channel. My name is Monica. I'm a licensed esthetician and sugaring specialist. And today we are going to be talking about the top 3 mistakes that I see new sugarists make. So if you guys are just getting into sugaring and starting your sugaring journey, congratulations. It's an amazing journey to start because this is such an in-demand service that is only growing in America. So if you correct these top 3 mistakes, I guarantee you your results are going to be a lot better. Okay, so let's start with the number 1 mistake that I see new sugarists make, and that is overheating your paste. So this mistake is going to make you think that you're not as good of a sugarist as you actually are. So overheating your paste is attractive because it's going to give you a high moldability level in the beginning of your service, which is going to make it seem like it's easier for you to spread the sugar. But in reality, you're just melting your sugar and you're actually going to make it a lot harder when you start flicking. So overheating your paste is going to do 3 things. Number 1, it's going to make it hard for you to grab the right amount of paste because it's just going to be dripping out of your hands so fast that you're not even going to be able to get the right ball of sugar that you need to do the service. Number 2, it's going to make it extremely hard for you to flick. So when that sugar is melting onto the skin, it gets really soft and really moldable, which seems great when you're initially molding across the skin, especially on a larger body area. But not only is that paste going to start dripping down the sides of the body and melting, creating a big mess and possibly making it even harder to remove, but when you start flicking, it's going to be sticking onto the skin and you can actually bruise the client this way. And I've seen this happen so many times when people are actually bruising their client and they're wondering why their sugar is not flicking off the skin easily. It's because their sugar is way too overheated, you guys. So this is a huge mistake that new sugarists are making. And then number 3, it's going to make the paste harder to remove, not only in the aspect of flicking, but also on the body area. So let's talk about, for instance, a Brazilian. When you're doing a Brazilian, you don't want to go into any body creases because that's going to create divots and it's going to make it impossible for you to flick it off. So let's say the crease of the leg, right? Let's say you're staying on the outside of the crease of the leg, you have really hot sugar and it starts melting into the crease and out into the frontal area of the pubis. What's going to happen when you start flicking is it's going to actually pull both areas and you're not going to get a clean pull. So this is going to make it almost impossible to remove the sugar, and you may even have to go in and do a removal with water or do a removal with a harder sugar paste, which is going to extend the time of your service. It's going to possibly hurt the client and it's going to seem a lot more unprofessional for the client. So to prevent this, you want to heat your paste to the exact right temperature that you want. So that's going to be around body temperature. The way that you can tell if your temperature is correct is when you pick up the sugar, you're going to notice that it's the perfect consistency. So when you pick up your sugar ball, you don't want to see it dripping really fast. If you see a large stream of wax just coming down, that's how you know it's overheated. It's just purely melting back into the pot. When you pick it up, you actually want it to be a little difficult to pick up, but still have some tension in there, but you actually want it to be able to easily mold. So you kind of want it right in between. You want to be able to pick it up and it's going to have some kind of drip, but once you swirl it and take out your ball, it's going to stay in your hand and you're just going to do the small swirls to hold your ball. And you want to be able to easily spread it across the skin without tugging. However, you do not want it to just easily spread and just melt and go all over the place because it's going to become a mess. Okay, so moving on to number 2. The next mistake that I see all the time is not choosing the right paste. So this is kind of relating to the first tip that we talked about in terms of overheating your paste, but this one actually comes down to exactly what paste you're using. So there are 2 factors to selecting your paste. Number 1 is going to be the temperature of the room and the humidity of the room. So the hotter the room, the harder paste you want to use. If you're using a paste that's too soft, then it's going to consistently melt in a hot room and it's actually going to inhibit the service. If you're using a paste that's too hard, it's going to quickly dry up and it's going to become really unmoldable and it's going to start pulling the skin. So you really have to know your temperatures. I always recommend having a thermometer in not only your salon, but specifically your waxing room. And soon you won't really need to have the thermometer, but it does help just to mentally know, okay, what temperature it is. You'll be able to feel the right temperature and know that, okay, right now I need a medium paste or I need a soft paste. The other factor is going to be body area. So if you're working on a larger body area, then you are going to want a softer paste. If you're working on a smaller body area, especially if the area has denser hair or more body creases, such as a Brazilian or an underarm, you're going to want a slightly firmer paste. And that's going to make it easier to pull out that dense short hair. and it's also going to be better for molding. On a larger body area, you want high moldability, so using a softer paste is ideal. There's also less perspiration and moisture in those areas, such as the arms and the legs. So remember guys, go by temperature and body area, and you will always pick the perfect paste. Don't forget, you can always mix your paste and customize depending on not only the client, the body area, the hair density, and the temperature of the room. And that way you'll get the perfect result every time. I also want to throw in there, if you guys take out the wrong paste, do not be afraid to just throw out the ball of paste and go get the right paste. Don't be scared of wasting your sugar, because look you guys, at the end of the day, sugar, one ball of sugar, it's not gonna cost you that much to just throw it out and get the right ball of paste if it's gonna sacrifice the client's comfort and results. You guys need to be using the right paste. It's so important. So if you pick out the wrong paste and you realize it once you start molding, just flick that sugar off and go get the right paste. It's gonna be so worth it, and it's gonna save you a lot of time. Okay guys, and number 3, this one is so important. I saved the best for last, but you always have to come past your edge. It is so important. So when you're starting out your sugaring journey, you may not know where the best area is to flick from. I'm gonna give you 2 tips to make sure that you always flick from the right area. My first tip is going to be, when you're molding, try to mold in a linear shape. So when you're molding, you want to keep a clean edge. So if you're doing legs, for instance, you want to mold, and you don't want to have this wavy edge to your paste, because it's going to create a problem when you start flicking. You're going to have little edges that are left behind, and you're going to have to go back over those. So as you're molding, be aware of the edge that you're creating with the sugar, and if you have to extend it and go over it to create that clean edge, do it. It's going to create such a better result for you. Number 2 is that you always have to come past your edge when you're flicking. It's so important. You cannot sugar and you cannot flick if you're not coming past your edge. So when you're sugaring, you always have to come past the last point of where the sugar is with your hand, and then you flick once you get past the edge. So that's why when you sugar, you don't want to extend it too long to, let's say, a body crease that you can't go past, because then you're gonna have to sugar from before the end. And what happens when you either flick from the middle or not quite past the edge is that you're gonna raise up the sugar, you're gonna pull the skin, and you're gonna bruise the client. So the sugar is never going to flick properly if you don't come past the edge. All right, well, I hope these tips helped when you're starting out your sugaring journey. And if you wanna know more tips and tricks about sugaring, go ahead and follow our page, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.